I destroyed my best friend's scholarship because he was about to leave me behind and pretend I never existed. Trevor and I had been best friends since 3rd grade. We did everything together. Same lunch table, same video games, same everything. We even had this stupid handshake we made up in middle school that took like 15 seconds to complete. Then senior year hit and Trevor got scouted for this fancy engineering program. Full ride to Stanford. His parents were going crazy about it. They kept calling him their golden boy and posting about it on Facebook every single day. At first, I was happy for him. I really was. But then, things started changing. He stopped sitting with me at lunch, started hanging out with the AP kids who wore designer hoodies and talked about their college essays. When I texted him to play games, he'd leave me on read for hours. One day, I asked if he wanted to grab burgers after school like we always did on Fridays. He said he couldn't because he was studying with his new friends. I saw him at the mall 2 hours later buying shoes with them. That's when I knew. He was done with me. I was the loser friend from his old life, and Stanford Trevor didn't have time for that. The scholarship required a final essay submission, 5,000 words about overcoming adversity. Trevor had been working on it for months in the school library. He saved everything on his laptop and a USB drive he kept in his backpack. I knew his locker combination. We'd shared our combinations freshman year in case of emergencies. During lunch one Tuesday, while he was off with his new crowd, I went to his locker. The USB drive was right there in the front pocket of his backpack, sitting next to his calculator and some gum wrappers. I grabbed it and walked straight to the computer lab, plugged it in, found the essay file, deleted it. Then I went into the recycling bin and permanently deleted it from there too. But I didn't stop there. I logged into his email using the password I'd seen him type 100 times. We used to joke about how bad his password was. It was literally just his dog's name and his birth year. I found the draft he'd emailed himself as backup, deleted that too, cleared the trash folder. Then I did something that still makes my stomach hurt. I drafted an email to the Stanford Scholarship Committee, made it sound like it was from him, said he was withdrawing his application because he'd decided to take a gap year instead, added some stuff about wanting to find himself and travel. My finger hovered over the send button for a solid minute, the cursor just blinking there. This would destroy everything he'd worked for. 4 years of perfect grades, all those late nights studying, his parents' dreams. But he'd destroyed our friendship first, just tossed me aside like I was nothing. Like 10 years meant absolutely nothing to him. I heard footsteps in the hallway outside the lab. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. The door handle started to turn. I clicked send and yanked the USB out. Nobody came in, just the wind probably. I let out this huge breath. I'd done it. Destroyed everything he worked for. Justice. I walked toward the door feeling lighter than I had in months. Then I checked my own email on my phone. There was a message from the principal. Subject line, urgent academic matter. My hands went cold. I opened it. They were reviewing my college applications. Someone had reported suspicious activity on my essays, possible plagiarism. They'd found the paragraphs I'd copied from an online source last year. My heart stopped. If they pulled my applications, I'd lose my own scholarship, my only way out of this town. And the email was sent from Trevor's account. I stood there in the hallway, staring at my phone screen like it was written in a foreign language. My brain couldn't process what I was seeing. Trevor had reported me for plagiarism. The timestamp on the email showed it was sent 3 days ago, 3 days before I deleted his essay, 3 days before I sent that fake withdrawal email. He'd already fired first. I just didn't know it. My legs felt like they were filled with sand. I leaned against the lockers and tried to breathe, but my lungs weren't cooperating. The bell rang somewhere in the building, that loud, piercing sound that usually meant nothing, but now it felt like an alarm going off in my head. I had 30 minutes before my next class, 30 minutes to figure out what the hell I was going to do. I walked to the bathroom on the 2nd floor, the one nobody used because it always smelled like mildew, and the hand dryer had been broken since freshman year. I locked myself in the last stall and sat on the toilet lid, phone shaking in my hands. I read the principal's email again, and again, and again. Dear Bryce, it has come to our attention that portions of your college application essay may contain material from uncredited sources. This is a serious matter that we are obligated to investigate. Please report to the main office tomorrow at 8 a.m. before first period to discuss this situation. Tomorrow. I had until tomorrow. I pulled up Trevor's social media. His last post was from 2 hours ago, a picture of him and his new friends at some coffee shop downtown. The caption read, "Study grind never stops," with a bunch of muscle emojis. 3 days ago, while I was sitting alone in my room playing video games and feeling sorry for myself, Trevor had been plotting my destruction. He'd logged into the school's tip line and reported me for plagiarism. He'd included screenshots. He'd included the original source material. He'd been building a case against me while smiling at me in the hallways. I thought about all the times over the past few weeks when I'd waved at him and he'd given me that half nod, that quick acknowledgement that said, "I see you, but I don't have time for you." I thought he was just distracted, just busy, just outgrowing our friendship the way people sometimes do. But no, he was actively trying to ruin me. The bathroom door creaked open. I held my breath. Footsteps. Someone using the urinal, washing their hands, leaving. The door swung shut again. I exhaled and pulled up the essay I'd submitted to colleges, the one with the plagiarized paragraphs. I'd copied maybe 4 sentences from some website about overcoming challenges. It was stupid. I was struggling with the word count and panicking about deadlines, and I found this perfect description of resilience that said exactly what I wanted to say. I didn't think anyone would notice. It was just 4 sentences out of like 2,000 words. But Trevor noticed. Or maybe he went looking for it. Maybe he suspected I wasn't smart enough to write something that good on my own. The more I thought about it, the angrier I got. This wasn't just about him reporting me. This was about him weaponizing our friendship. He knew my secrets. He knew my weaknesses. He knew I'd struggled with that essay because I'd complained to him about it last October. He'd used everything I told him against me. I stood up so fast I almost fell into the toilet. My hands were clenched into fists. My jaw hurt from grinding my teeth. Fine. He wanted war? He'd get war. I walked out of that bathroom with a new plan forming in my head. The email I'd sent to Stanford was just the beginning. I needed to make sure Trevor couldn't recover from this. I needed to make sure he felt exactly as helpless as I felt right now. But first, I needed to deal with my own problem. I found Mrs. Patterson in her classroom during her free period. She was my English teacher, the one who'd helped me with my college essays, the one who'd praised my writing and told me I had a bright future. She looked up when I knocked on the door frame. "Bryce, come in. What can I do for you?" I sat down in the desk closest to hers. My hands were sweating so bad I had to wipe them on my jeans. "Mrs. Patterson, I need to tell you something, and I need you to not hate me." Her expression shifted from friendly to concerned. She put down her pen. "What's going on?" I told her everything. Well, almost everything. I told her about the plagiarized paragraphs. I told her about how stressed I was when I wrote the essay. I told her I knew it was wrong and I'd been scared to come forward. I didn't tell her about Trevor's email. I didn't tell her about what I'd just done to his scholarship. Mrs. Patterson listened without interrupting. When I finished, she leaned back in her chair and sighed. "Bryce, this is serious. You know that." "I know. Plagiarism can get your applications rejected. It can get you expelled." "I know." She studied me for a long moment. "But you came to me voluntarily. That counts for something." "I don't know what to do," I said. And I wasn't entirely acting. The fear in my voice was real. "I can't lose my scholarship. It's the only way I'm getting out of here." Mrs. Patterson nodded slowly. "Let me talk to Principal Harrison. I can't promise anything, but if you're genuinely remorseful and willing to rewrite those sections, there might be a path forward. You'd do that for me? I believe in second chances, Bryce, but you have to be completely honest from here on out. No more shortcuts. No more excuses." I thanked her probably 10 times before leaving. My heart was still pounding, but for a different reason now. Maybe I could survive this. Maybe Trevor's attack wouldn't be the kill shot he intended, but that didn't mean I was going to let him walk away clean. The rest of that day passed in a blur. I went to my classes, I took notes, I ate lunch alone in the corner of the cafeteria, watching Trevor from across the room. He was surrounded by his new friends, laughing at something on someone's phone. He looked happy, confident, like he didn't have a care in the world. He had no idea what I'd done. No idea that in a few days or weeks, Stanford would be sending him a very confusing email about his withdrawal. No idea that his essay was gone, erased from every backup he'd made. Good. Let him enjoy these last few days of ignorance. I told myself I was doing the right thing, that he'd started this war, that I was just defending myself. But there was a small voice in the back of my head, the voice of the kid who'd spent 10 years being Trevor's best friend, that knew the truth. I hadn't done this for justice. I'd done it for revenge. After school, I went straight home. My mom was still at work, wouldn't be back until 6. I had the house to myself. I sat at my desk and opened my laptop. I needed to cover my tracks. I needed to make sure nothing could be traced back to me. The house was quiet. Just the hum of the refrigerator and the occasional car passing outside. I could hear my own breathing, shallow and fast. First, I cleared my browser history. Then I went through my search history and deleted anything related to Trevor, Stanford, or scholarship applications. I found the USB drive in my backpack and snapped it in half, then flushed the pieces down the toilet. I watched them swirl down the drain, feeling a mix of relief and something that might have been regret. Then I logged into the school's computer network remotely. It was actually pretty easy. They'd given all students access during COVID and never properly locked it down afterward. I found the computer lab's usage logs and deleted the record of my login from earlier that day. My hands were sweating so badly I had to keep wiping them on my jeans. But I was methodical, thorough. I went through every potential trace of my activity and erased it. I was careful. I was thorough. I left no evidence. Or so I thought. What I didn't know was that the school had implemented a new backup system over the summer. Every deletion, every modification was automatically saved to a secondary server. Mr. Rowland, the IT guy, had set it up after a ransomware scare the previous year. I was erasing my tracks, but I was also creating a perfect record of myself erasing my tracks. The next morning, I showed up to Principal Harrison's office at 7:55 a.m. My mom was with me. I'd told her the night before about the plagiarism, minus the Trevor parts. She was disappointed, but supportive. "We'll get through this together," she'd said. "You're not the first kid to make a mistake." The school had that particular smell it always had early in the morning. Floor wax and coffee and something like anxiety. A few early bird students were trickling through the hallways, but mostly it was empty. Our footsteps echoed as we walked toward the main office. Principal Harrison was a tall man with gray hair and glasses that always seemed to be sliding down his nose. He shook my mom's hand and gestured for us to sit. His office was cluttered with awards and framed photos, pictures of him with various student groups over the years, a dusty trophy from some administrators' conference, stacks of paperwork that never seemed to get any smaller. "Thank you for coming in. I understand Mrs. Patterson spoke to you yesterday, Bryce?" "Yes, sir. And you admit to including uncredited material in your college application essay?" I swallowed hard. "Yes, sir. I made a mistake. A big one. I know that now." He nodded, reviewing a file on his desk. "The good news is that the colleges haven't been formally notified yet. We received the tip internally, and I wanted to investigate before escalating." "So there's still time to fix this?" my mom asked. "Potentially. Bryce, if you're willing to rewrite the essay completely, under supervision, and submit the revised version to your colleges with a letter of explanation, we may be able to avoid the worst consequences." I felt tears prick my eyes. "I'll do whatever it takes. I promise. I should warn you that this will still appear on your academic record. Some colleges may rescind their offers, but it's better than the alternative." I nodded quickly. "Yes, sir. Thank you." We spent another 20 minutes going over the details. I'd have to come in after school every day that week to work on the new essay with Mrs. Patterson supervising. The colleges would be contacted with the explanation and the revised submission. My fate would be in their hands after that. Mrs. Patterson was waiting in her classroom when I arrived that afternoon. She'd cleared off a table near her desk and set up a laptop for me to use. "No internet access," she explained. "This computer is isolated from the network. You'll write from scratch, and I'll be here the whole time." It felt like prison, but it was also exactly what I needed. The first day I just stared at the blank document. 2 hours. Nothing but a blinking cursor and my own thoughts spiraling. Mrs. Patterson didn't pressure me. She graded papers at her desk, occasionally glancing over to check on me. "I don't know how to start," I finally admitted. She put down her pen. "Start with the truth. Why did you plagiarize?" "Because I was scared. Because I thought I wasn't good enough." "Write that." So I did. I wrote about the pressure of college applications, about watching Trevor succeed while I struggled, about the moment I found those paragraphs online and how easy it seemed to just copy them. The words came slowly at first, then faster. By the end of the week, I had 3,000 words that were entirely my own. They weren't as polished as the plagiarized version. The sentences were rougher, the transitions less smooth, but they were real. They were mine. "This is good," Mrs. Patterson said when she read the final draft. "Really good. It's honest in a way the original never was." I sent it off to the colleges and waited. The responses came over the next few weeks. 3 rejections, 1 waitlist, and 1 acceptance. It was a small state school, nothing prestigious, but they were willing to give me a chance. A probationary admission with extra monitoring, but admission nonetheless. When we left the office, my mom hugged me tight in the hallway. "I'm proud of you for owning up to this," she said. I hugged her back, feeling like the worst person alive, because while she thought I was learning from my mistake, I was actually plotting how to make Trevor's life even worse. The first sign that something was wrong came 2 days later. I was in the computer lab after school, working on my revised essay under Mrs. Patterson's watchful eye when Trevor burst through the door. His face was red. His hands were shaking. He looked like he'd been crying. "You!" he shouted, pointing directly at me. Mrs. Patterson stood up immediately. Trevor, what's going on? You can't just— He sabotaged me! Trevor was screaming now, his voice cracking. He deleted my essay and sent a fake email to Stanford! The room went dead silent. Mrs. Patterson looked at me. 2 other students who'd been working on homework looked at me. Everyone was staring at me. I don't know what you're talking about, I said, keeping my voice calm even though my heart was trying to escape through my throat. Bullshit! Trevor lunged toward me, but Mrs. Patterson stepped between us. Trevor, I need you to calm down. Right now. I can't calm down. Stanford thinks I withdrew my application. My essay is gone. Everything I worked for is gone. Mrs. Patterson turned to me. Bryce, do you know anything about this? No, I lied, looking her straight in the eye. I've been here every day working on my essay. You can vouch for that. Trevor was still ranting. I know it was you. You're the only one who knows my locker combination. You're the only one who knows my email password. Lots of people could figure that stuff out, I said. Your password is your dog's name and your birthday. That's not exactly Fort Knox. Trevor froze. His eyes went wide. How do you know what my password is? Shit. You told me once, I said quickly. Back when we were friends, remember? I never told you my password. Yeah, you did. Freshman year. We were at your house playing games and you— I never told anyone my password! Mrs. Patterson held up her hands. Okay, that's enough. Trevor, I understand you're upset, but making accusations without proof isn't going to help anyone. Bryce, come with me. We need to talk to Principal Harrison. The next 2 hours were the longest of my life. Principal Harrison called in the school's IT technician, a guy named Mr. Rowland who always smelled like coffee and looked like he hadn't slept since 2015. He started digging through the computer system logs while Trevor and I sat on opposite sides of the office, not looking at each other. My mom had been called. She was on her way. Trevor's parents had been called too. His mom arrived first, a thin woman with the same sharp features as Trevor. She kept shooting me death glares while comforting her son. Then Mr. Rowland found something. There's a deletion in the logs, he said, squinting at his laptop screen. Someone erased their login session from the computer lab on Tuesday at 12:47 p.m. Can you recover it? Principal Harrison asked. Give me a minute. I felt sweat dripping down my back. This couldn't be happening. I'd been so careful. Mr. Rowland typed for what felt like an eternity. Then he looked up. The original log was overwritten, but I found a backup on the server. Student ID 4472. That's— He checked a list. Bryce Kendall. Every head in the room turned toward me. My mom walked in at that exact moment, saw everyone staring at me, and stopped dead in the doorway. What's going on? She asked. Principal Harrison cleared his throat. Mrs. Kendall, please have a seat. It seems we have a new situation to discuss. The next part happened fast. Mr. Rowland recovered more data. He found the login to Trevor's email account originating from the school computer I'd used. He found the sent email to Stanford. He found evidence of the file deletion on the USB drive. I tried to deny it at first, said someone must have stolen my login, said I'd been framed, but the evidence was overwhelming, and eventually I just stopped talking. My mom was crying. Trevor's mom was yelling about lawsuits and criminal charges. Trevor himself was just sitting there, staring at me with an expression I'd never seen before. Not angry, not triumphant, just broken. Why? He finally asked when there was a break in the chaos. I don't understand why you would do this. I didn't answer. What could I say? Because you abandoned me? Because you made new friends? Because you reported me first? That last part would sound insane, and I knew it. Because yes, he'd reported my plagiarism, but that was after I'd stolen his USB drive and was planning to sabotage him. I'd been suspicious of him for weeks. I'd been building up resentment for months. The plagiarism report was just the final justification I needed. But from where Trevor sat, I was the monster. I was the one who destroyed his future for no reason. Bryce, do you have anything to say? Principal Harrison asked. I looked at Trevor, at his mom, at my mom, at the principal. He reported me, I said quietly. 3 days ago. He reported me for plagiarism and tried to destroy my scholarship. Trevor's face twisted. That's because you cheated. You copied your essay from some website. So it's okay for you to try to ruin my life, but I can't fight back? I didn't try to ruin your life. I reported academic dishonesty because it was the right thing to do. There's a difference. Boys, Principal Harrison started. No! Trevor stood up, knocking his chair backward. I didn't want this. I didn't want any of this. I reported you because I was angry, okay? I was angry that you kept texting me all the time and acting like nothing had changed when everything was changing. I was angry that you couldn't just be happy for me. But I never wanted to destroy you. I just wanted you to leave me alone. That hit harder than anything else. Leave me alone. That's all he'd wanted. for me to leave him alone. And instead of accepting that our friendship was over, I'd burned everything down. The room was silent except for Trevor's heavy breathing. His mom pulled him back into his chair. My mom was staring at me like she didn't recognize me. Principal Harrison rubbed his temples. This is unprecedented. I need to consult with the superintendent and the school board. In the meantime, both of you are suspended pending investigation. Trevor, we'll work with Stanford to explain the situation. Bryce, he paused. Bryce, I honestly don't know what's going to happen to you. I was escorted out of the building by the security guard. My mom walked 3 steps ahead of me the whole way to the car. She didn't say a word until we were both inside with the doors closed. Then she turned to me with tears streaming down her face. What is wrong with you? I didn't have an answer. The next 3 days were a special kind of hell. I wasn't allowed to return to school. I wasn't allowed to use the internet. My mom took my phone, my laptop, everything. I sat in my room staring at the walls, playing out different scenarios in my head. What if I'd just accepted that Trevor was moving on? What if I'd made new friends instead of obsessing over our dying friendship? What if I'd never copied those stupid paragraphs in the first place? But mostly I thought about Trevor's words. I just wanted you to leave me alone. All those texts I'd sent him. All those invitations to hang out. All those attempts to recreate what we'd had. He'd seen them as harassment. As me refusing to let go. I'd thought I was being a loyal friend. He'd thought I was being a stalker. On the 4th day, my mom got a call from Principal Harrison. She listened for a long time, saying uh-huh and I understand, and yes, of course. When she hung up, her face was gray. Stanford is keeping Trevor's application, she said. They recovered his essay from a cloud backup he'd forgotten about. He's going to be okay. Relief flooded through me, which was weird. I'd spent so much energy trying to destroy him, and now I was glad he was going to be fine? What about me? I asked. My mom sat down heavily on my bed. You're expelled, Bryce. Effective immediately. The word hit me like a physical blow. Expelled. All your college applications have been withdrawn. The plagiarism report has been sent to every school you applied to, along with a report about the sabotage. You're not going to college, not next year, maybe not ever. I felt the floor dropping out from under me. Everything I'd planned. Everything I'd worked for. Gone. The school is not pressing criminal charges, my mom continued, her voice shaking. Trevor's family considered it, but apparently Trevor himself asked them not to. Said he didn't want to ruin your life any more than it was already ruined. That was somehow worse than getting arrested. Trevor, who I'd tried to destroy, was showing me mercy. What am I supposed to do now? I asked, and I hated how small my voice sounded. My mom looked at me with an expression that was part grief, part anger, part exhaustion. I don't know, Bryce. I really don't know. I spent the rest of senior year at home, completing my coursework online through a credit recovery program. I watched from afar as Trevor got accepted to Stanford officially, saw the Facebook posts from his parents, saw the pictures of his acceptance package arriving in the mail. I didn't go to graduation. Technically, I was still getting my diploma, just not walking across the stage with everyone else. My mom offered to attend on my behalf, but I told her not to bother. The day everyone else was throwing their caps in the air and taking pictures with their friends, I was in my room packing up my stuff. My mom had made it clear that once I graduated, I needed to figure out my next steps. Living at home rent-free wasn't going to be an option forever. I found a job at a warehouse about 20 minutes away. Night shift. Loading trucks from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. The work was mindless and exhausting, which was exactly what I needed. No time to think. No energy to feel sorry for myself. I moved into a cheap apartment with 2 roommates I'd found on Craigslist. One was a guy named Danny who worked at a call center and was never home. The other was a girl named May who was going to community college and spent most of her time studying. Neither of them knew about my past. Neither of them asked. We split the rent 3 ways and stayed out of each other's business. Months passed. Fall turned to winter, turned to spring. I worked. I slept. I ate gas station food because I couldn't be bothered to cook. I tried not to think about Trevor at Stanford, surrounded by smart people, building a future. I tried not to think about what my future could have looked like. Then, one night in March, I got a Facebook notification. Trevor Huang has sent you a message request. I stared at it for a long time. My finger hovered over the delete button. Whatever he wanted to say, I didn't deserve to hear it. I'd tried to ruin his life, and he'd saved mine by not pressing charges. We were square. We were done. But curiosity got the better of me. I opened the message. Bryce, I've been thinking about things for a while now. I know what you did was messed up. I know you probably hate me for reporting you, but I also know that I handled things badly. I should have talked to you directly instead of just cutting you off. I should have explained that I needed space instead of ghosting you. That doesn't excuse what you did, but I wanted you to know that I understand where it came from. Anyway, I'm not expecting a response. I just wanted to clear my conscience. Good luck with everything. I read it 3 times. Then I typed a response. I don't hate you. I was jealous. You were getting everything I wanted, and I couldn't handle watching you leave me behind. That's not your fault. It's mine. I'm sorry for what I did. I'm sorry for almost destroying your future. I'm glad Stanford worked out. You deserve it. I hit send before I could chicken out. 3 dots appeared. He was typing. Thanks. That means more than you know. I hope things get better for you. Me too. And that was it. No reconciliation. No rekindled friendship. Just 2 people who used to know each other, acknowledging the damage and moving on. I put my phone down and went back to work. Spring turned to summer. I got promoted to shift supervisor at the warehouse. The pay bump wasn't huge, but it was enough that I could afford my own apartment, no roommates. I started cooking actual meals, started exercising, started feeling like maybe I wasn't completely worthless. My mom and I slowly repaired our relationship. Sunday dinners became a thing again. She stopped looking at me like I was a stranger, started treating me like her son. I enrolled in community college for the fall semester. Just 2 classes to start, English and math, baby steps. The counselor there didn't care about my past, didn't care about the expulsion or the plagiarism or the sabotage. All she cared about was whether I was ready to put in the work. Everyone deserves a second chance, she told me. What you do with it is up to you. I thought about Trevor's message, about the future he was building, about the future I'd almost lost. I registered for my classes. The second chance wasn't guaranteed, I knew that. 1 semester at a time, 1 class at a time, 1 day at a time. But for the first time since that Tuesday in the computer lab, I felt something other than shame and regret. I felt hope. The first semester of community college was harder than I expected. Not academically. The classes themselves were fine. Introduction to English composition, fundamentals of mathematics. Stuff I'd already learned in high school but hadn't really absorbed the first time around. The hard part was everything else. Being surrounded by people who didn't know my history was a relief at first. Nobody looked at me with judgment. Nobody whispered when I walked by. I was just another student, anonymous and unremarkable. But anonymity comes with its own kind of loneliness. I'd eat lunch alone in the cafeteria, watching groups of friends laugh and talk, and feel that familiar ache. The one I'd felt watching Trevor with his new crowd back in high school. The jealousy, the fear of being left behind. Only now I recognized it for what it was. A pattern, a weakness I needed to address. Dr. Malone noticed me struggling during her office hours one day. "You seem distracted," she said. "Everything okay?" I'd gone to ask about a paper assignment, but something about her gentle tone made me spill more than I intended. "I don't know how to make friends anymore," I admitted. "I used to be good at it, but now I don't trust myself. What if I get too attached? What if I mess it up?" She leaned back in her chair and considered me. "Making friends isn't about trust," she said. "It's about showing up. Consistently, reliably, being the person other people can count on." That sounds exhausting. It is, but it's also the only thing that works. I thought about that a lot over the next few weeks. I started small, said hi to the girl who always sat next to me in math class. Her name was Vivian. She was an accounting major who worked nights at a grocery store and was desperately trying to finish her associate degree before she turned 30. We started studying together in the library. Just an hour here and there between classes, nothing intense. But slowly, over weeks and months, we became something like friends. Then there was Omar from my English class. He was older, maybe 40, trying to finish a degree he'd abandoned in his 20s. He had 3 kids and a wife who worked 2 jobs and more stress than anyone I'd ever met. But he never complained. Just showed up every day, did the work, kept moving forward. I asked him once how he stayed so positive. "Positive?" He laughed. "Brother, I'm terrified every single day, but I've got people counting on me, can't let them down. Doesn't that make it harder, having so much pressure?" "Nah, makes it easier. When it's just about you, giving up is always an option. When it's about them," he shrugged. "Failure isn't on the menu." I thought about his words a lot, about what it meant to have people counting on you, about the difference between living for yourself and living for something bigger. I didn't have kids, didn't have a spouse, but I had my mom, who'd stood by me through everything. I had Trevor, somewhere out there, who'd given me a second chance I didn't deserve. Maybe that was enough to keep me going. The warehouse job was gone, but TaskRabbit was keeping me afloat. I got a reputation as the guy who showed up on time and did good work. Referrals started coming in, I raised my rates, started making almost as much as I had at the warehouse, but with more flexibility. One of my regular clients was a family who'd just moved to the area. The Ramirezes, mom, dad, 2 kids, and more stuff than their small apartment could hold. I helped them organize their garage, assemble their furniture, hang pictures on the walls. Mrs. Ramirez invited me to stay for dinner one night. I tried to decline, but she wouldn't hear it. "You work so hard," she said. "The least we can do is feed you." So I sat at their table, eating enchiladas that reminded me of the dinners my own grandmother used to make, and watched their kids argue over who got the last helping of rice. It felt normal, domestic, like something I'd been missing without realizing it. After dinner, Mr. Ramirez walked me to my car. "You're good with the kids," he said. "They usually don't warm up to strangers that fast." "I like kids. They're honest." "That they are." He paused. "You seem like you've got a good head on your shoulders. If you ever want a reference for anything, just let me know." I thanked him and drove home, feeling something warm in my chest that I couldn't quite name. Community, connection, belonging. Things I'd tried to find in Trevor all those years ago. Things I'd destroyed when I couldn't handle him moving on without me. But maybe I was finally learning, finally figuring out that relationships aren't about possession or exclusivity. They're about showing up, consistently, reliably, being the person other people can count on. By the end of my first semester, I had a 3.7 GPA and 3 people I could genuinely call friends. Not close friends, not the kind of friends I'd had with Trevor, but real connections, built on shared experiences and mutual respect. It was a start. Update 1. 6 months later. If you'd told me 6 months ago that I'd be writing an update to this story, I would have laughed in your face. Or cried. Probably both. But here I am, sitting in the campus library at Jefferson Community College, typing this out on a laptop I bought with my own money from my warehouse job. A lot has changed since I last shared what happened. Some of it good, some of it really, really bad. Let me start with the bad, because that's the part everyone always wants to hear first anyway. About 3 months after my last message exchange with Trevor, I got another notification. This time, it wasn't from him. It was from someone named Caitlin Huang, Trevor's little sister. I remembered her vaguely from back when Trevor and I were friends. She was 2 years younger than us, always hanging around wanting to be included in whatever we were doing. Trevor usually shooed her away, but I'd always thought she was kind of sweet. Annoying, but sweet. Her message was anything but sweet. "I know who you are. I know what you did to my brother. He might have forgiven you, but I never will. You almost destroyed our family. My mom cried for weeks when she thought Trevor's scholarship was gone. My dad had to take time off work because he was so stressed, and now Trevor acts like everything's fine, but I see him sometimes when he doesn't know I'm looking. He's not fine. You broke something in him. So don't think this is over. Don't think you got away with it. Karma's coming for you, and when it does, I'll be there to watch." I read that message maybe 50 times. At first I was angry. Who was this kid to threaten me? I'd already lost everything. What more could she possibly do? But then the anger faded, and I just felt sick, because she was right. I'd been so focused on my own consequences that I'd never really thought about what Trevor's family went through. His mom crying for weeks, his dad missing work, Caitlin watching her brother fall apart. I hadn't just hurt Trevor. I'd hurt everyone who loved him. I didn't respond to Caitlin's message. What could I say? Sorry didn't cut it. Nothing I could say would undo the damage. I just archived the message and tried to move on. But here's the thing about karma. Sometimes it doesn't wait for you to be ready. 2 weeks after Caitlin's message, I showed up to work and found out the warehouse was closing. The whole operation was being moved to a facility 2 states away. Everyone was being laid off. Just like that, my income was gone. I had maybe 3 months of savings, enough to cover rent and food if I was careful, but not enough to wait around for another job to fall into my lap. I started applying everywhere. Fast food, retail, delivery driving, anything. Nobody was hiring. My mom offered to let me move back home, but I couldn't do that. I'd worked too hard to become independent. Moving back would feel like admitting defeat. So I did something I never thought I'd do. I signed up for TaskRabbit and started doing odd jobs. Moving furniture, cleaning out garages, assembling IKEA furniture for people who couldn't figure out the instructions. It was humbling work, but it paid. One of my first clients was an older woman named Mrs. Delgado who needed help clearing out her late husband's workshop. She lived about 15 minutes from my apartment, in a nice neighborhood full of big houses with manicured lawns. The workshop was in her backyard, a converted shed stuffed with tools and half-finished projects and decades of accumulated stuff. Her husband had been a woodworker, she explained, made furniture, toys, decorative pieces. He'd died 6 months ago, and she hadn't been able to face the workshop until now. "Take whatever you want," she told me. "I just need it empty. Can't bear to look at it anymore." I spent 8 hours in that workshop, sorting, organizing, loading stuff into my truck to take to donation centers. And somewhere in the middle of all that, I found something that stopped me cold. A box of letters. Not Mr. Delgado's letters. These were older. Yellowed paper, faded ink, addressed to someone named Robert Kendall, my grandfather's name. I called Mrs. Delgado over and showed her the box. She looked confused. I have no idea how those got here. My husband's name was Martin, not Robert. I looked at the return address on the top letter. It was from an address in this same neighborhood, just a few streets over. My grandfather grew up around here, I said slowly. He passed away before I was born, but my mom always said he was from this area. Mrs. Delgado's eyes went wide. What was his last name? Kendall. Robert Kendall. She put a hand over her mouth. Oh my goodness. Martin used to talk about a Robert. They were childhood friends. Lost touch after high school. I opened one of the letters with shaking hands. It was dated 1962, written in neat cursive that was hard to read but unmistakably personal. Dear Robert, I'm sorry I haven't written sooner. Things have been complicated here. My father still won't accept my decision to pursue art instead of the family business. Sometimes I wonder if I made a mistake, giving up a sure thing for a dream. But then I remember what you told me that night by the lake, that dreams are the only things worth risking everything for. I hope you still believe that, wherever you are. The letter was signed Martin. I sat down on an overturned bucket and read the rest of the box. 60 years of correspondence between my grandfather and this man I'd never heard of. They'd been best friends, closer than brothers, from what the letters suggested. They'd had a falling out in their 20s over something neither of them spelled out directly. Then, decades later, Martin had reached out again. The later letters were full of regret and reconciliation and reminiscing about the old days. The final letter was dated 2015, 2 years before my grandfather died. Dear Robert, the doctor says I don't have much time left. I wanted you to know that reconnecting with you these past few years has been one of the great joys of my life. I'm sorry we wasted so many years being stubborn. I'm sorry I let pride keep us apart. Tell your grandson, if you ever get the chance, that friendships are precious, that grudges aren't worth holding, that forgiveness is the only thing that matters in the end. Your friend forever, Martin. I was crying by the time I finished reading. Big, ugly, snot-dripping tears that I couldn't have stopped if I tried. Mrs. Delgado was crying too. He never sent that last letter, she said quietly. Martin passed before he could. I found it in his desk, sealed and stamped. I didn't know who Robert Kendall was or where to send it. And now, she trailed off, looking at me with something like wonder. Now his grandson showed up in my backyard, 60 years later. I took the letters home and read them again, and again, and again. My grandfather had lost his best friend over some stupid argument. They'd spent decades apart, each too proud to reach out. And when they finally did reconnect, it was almost too late. The parallels were impossible to ignore. I thought about Trevor, about the friendship we'd had and the way I'd destroyed it, about the message I'd sent and the brief exchange we'd shared, about Caitlin's threat and the pain I'd caused his whole family. Then I thought about what Martin had written. Friendships are precious. Grudges aren't worth holding. Forgiveness is the only thing that matters in the end. I pulled up Facebook on my phone and found Trevor's profile. He'd posted a few days ago about some engineering project he was working on. The comments were full of congratulations and impressed emojis. I didn't comment. I didn't message him. I just looked at the picture of him smiling, surrounded by his Stanford friends, living the life he'd worked so hard for, the life I'd almost taken from him. I closed the app and went to bed, but I didn't sleep. I lay there for hours, staring at the ceiling, thinking about Martin and Robert, thinking about Trevor and me, thinking about all the years they'd wasted and all the years I still had ahead of me. The next morning, I made a decision. I wasn't going to wait 60 years to make things right. I wrote a real letter, not a text, not a DM, an actual letter on actual paper. I found Trevor's parents' address in my old contacts. We'd exchanged addresses back when we were kids and sent each other birthday cards like dorks. And I sat down at my kitchen table with a pen and a blank sheet of paper. It took me 4 hours to write. I told him everything, about the jealousy that had been building for months, about the way I'd felt abandoned and replaced, about the moment I decided to sabotage his scholarship and how I'd justified it to myself, about the guilt that had been eating me alive ever since. I told him about finding Martin's letters, about my grandfather and his lost friendship, about the regret that had followed them both for decades. I told him I didn't expect forgiveness. I told him I didn't deserve it, but I needed him to know that I understood now, that I was sorry, that if I could go back and change things, I would. I sealed the letter and drove to the post office. It took 3 days for it to arrive. I know because Trevor texted me. "Got your letter, can we talk?" My hands were shaking as I typed back. "Yeah, when? Now?" 5 minutes later, my phone rang. "Hey," Trevor said. "Hey," I said back. And then neither of us said anything for a long time. "That stuff about your grandfather," Trevor finally said. "That's crazy." "I know. You found those letters in some random lady's workshop?" "Yeah. His childhood best friend's widow. Complete coincidence. Except it wasn't. Was it?" I thought about that. "Maybe not." More silence. "I got your original message," Trevor said. "The one where you apologized. It meant a lot. But this letter..." He paused. I could hear him breathing. "This letter broke me, Bryce. In a good way. I've been carrying around so much anger and resentment, and I thought I'd dealt with it, but I hadn't. I just buried it. And reading your words, I don't know, something shifted. I'm sorry," I said, "for everything. I know you are. And I need to apologize too." "For what?" "For cutting you off the way I did. For making you feel like you weren't good enough. For reporting you to the school instead of just talking to you like a normal person. You had every right to report me. I cheated. Yeah, but I didn't do it because it was the right thing. I did it because I was angry. Because you kept texting me and I didn't know how to tell you to stop. So I found something to use against you instead." That admission hung in the air between us. "We both screwed up," I said finally. "Yeah, we did." "So what now?" Trevor laughed. It was a small laugh. Tired and uncertain, but it was a laugh. "I don't know, man. I really don't. I'm at Stanford, surrounded by brilliant people, and sometimes I still feel like that kid from our hometown who's about to get found out as a fraud. You're working at a warehouse or whatever. I got laid off, actually. Working odd jobs now." "Seriously?" "Yeah, but I'm also going to community college, taking a few classes, trying to figure out my next move." "That's good. That's really good, Bryce. Thanks." Another pause. "I can't promise we're going to be best friends again," Trevor said. "Too much has happened, but maybe we can, I don't know, check in sometimes? Make sure neither of us turns into a bitter old man who waits 60 years to reconnect." I laughed. For the first time in months, a real laugh. "Yeah, I'd like that. Cool. I gotta go. Study group in 10 minutes. "Of course you do, nerd." "Shut up." But I could hear him smiling. "Talk later, Bryce." "Talk later, Trevor." He hung up. I sat there holding my phone for a long time, feeling something I couldn't quite name. It wasn't happiness. Not exactly. It wasn't relief either, though there was some of that mixed in. It felt like a door opening, a tiny crack of light in a room that had been dark for way too long. I looked at the box of Martin's letters sitting on my kitchen table. Friendships are precious. Grudges aren't worth holding. Forgiveness is the only thing that matters in the end. Maybe I was finally starting to understand what that meant. Update 2. 1 year later. A lot can change in a year. If you told me 12 months ago that I'd be writing this update from a real desk, in a real apartment that doesn't smell like mildew, with an actual plan for my future, I would have asked what you were smoking. But here we are. Let me catch you up. The community college experience turned into something I never expected. Those 2 initial classes became 4, then 5, and I discovered I actually liked learning when the stakes weren't about beating someone else, when it wasn't about proving I was smart enough to deserve good things. Dr. Malone kept pushing me. She'd return my essays covered in red ink, not criticizing but challenging. "Dig deeper," she'd write. "What's really going on here?" She saw something in my writing that I couldn't see myself. One afternoon, she asked me to stay after class. "Have you thought about what you want to do after you transfer?" she asked. I hadn't really. Survival had been my only goal for so long that thinking beyond it felt like tempting fate. "You should consider journalism," she continued, "or communications. You have a gift for finding the human story in things, for cutting through the noise to what matters." I don't know if I'm cut out for that. Journalism means dealing with people, asking questions, being trusted. And you don't think you can be trusted? I looked at my hands. I don't have the best track record. Dr. Malone leaned forward. "Listen to me. Everyone has done something they're ashamed of. Everyone. The difference between people who grow and people who stay stuck is whether they let their mistakes define them or teach them." Those words stuck with me. After that phone call with Trevor, things started shifting in ways I didn't expect. We didn't become best friends again. That was never going to happen. But we developed this weird, tentative thing where we'd text each other every few weeks, just checking in, sharing stupid memes, making fun of each other like we used to in middle school. The first time he sent me a meme, I stared at my phone for 5 minutes. It was a picture of a dog making a ridiculous face with the caption, "When your mom asks if you finished your homework." Completely stupid, completely normal. I laughed so hard I scared my roommate. We didn't talk about the past much, didn't rehash what had happened. The wounds were still too fresh for that. But we found a new language, one built on shared humor and careful boundaries. Sometimes he'd mention Stanford stuff, a professor who was particularly harsh, a project he was struggling with. I'd offer what little wisdom I had from my own academic struggles. Sometimes I'd mention community college stuff, the weird characters in my math class, the surprisingly good coffee at the campus cafe. He'd respond with appropriate amounts of sarcasm and support. It wasn't friendship exactly. It was more like aftermath. The wreckage two people leave behind after a car crash, slowly being cleared away. But the real changes happened in my own life. Community college turned out to be exactly what I needed. I started with just 2 classes, English and math, but by the second semester I was taking 4, then 5. I discovered I actually liked learning when I wasn't competing against people like Trevor for scholarships and status. My English professor, Dr. Malone, noticed something in my writing and pulled me aside after class one day. "You have a voice," she said. "Raw and honest. Have you ever considered majoring in communications or journalism?" I laughed. I didn't think I was going to college at all 6 months ago. "Well, you're here now, think about it." I thought about it. By the end of my first year at community college, I had a 3.7 GPA and a clear path toward transferring to a 4-year school. Not Stanford, never Stanford, but a decent state university with a good communications program that was willing to overlook my colorful high school record. The admissions essay was brutal. I had to explain the expulsion, the plagiarism, the sabotage. I had to talk about what I'd learned and how I'd changed and why I deserved a second chance. I wrote 6 drafts, threw out 5 of them. The final version was the most honest thing I'd ever written. No excuses, no justifications, just the truth about who I'd been and who I was trying to become. I got accepted 3 weeks before the deadline. My mom cried when I showed her the acceptance email. Happy tears this time. She kept saying, "I knew you could do it," and "I'm so proud of you," and all the things parents are supposed to say. I cried too. Couldn't help it. Meanwhile, the TaskRabbit jobs had led to something unexpected. One of my regular clients was a guy named Oscar, who ran a small property management company. He'd hired me a few times to clean out apartments after tenants moved out. Dirty work, but it paid well. One day, while I was hauling furniture down 3 flights of stairs, he stopped me. "You're good at this," he said. "At carrying heavy stuff, at solving problems. You're efficient. You don't complain. You show up when you say you will." I shrugged. "That's just being a decent worker. You'd be surprised how rare that is. Listen, I'm expanding my business. Need someone to manage the day-to-day operations while I focus on growing the client list. Part-time for now, but it could become full-time. Interested?" That's how I ended up with a real job. Like an actual career track position with responsibilities and a title and everything. The work was hard, coordinating maintenance crews, dealing with tenant complaints, handling emergencies at 2 a.m. when someone's pipe burst. But I was good at it. Oscar noticed. Gave me a raise after 3 months. By the time I started at State, I was managing a portfolio of 12 properties and making enough money to cover tuition without going into crazy debt. Things were good. Better than I deserved, probably. But karma wasn't done with me yet. Remember Caitlin? Trevor's little sister? The one who sent me that threatening message about how she'd never forgive me? Turns out she'd been busy. I found out from Trevor, of all people. He texted me one night with a screenshot. "Dude, you need to see this." The screenshot was from some anonymous Instagram account called Justice for Trevor. It had been posting for months, apparently. Stories about me, about what I'd done, about how I'd gotten away with it. Some of the posts were true. I had sabotaged Trevor's scholarship. I had almost destroyed his future. But other posts were lies. Made up stuff about how I'd been stalking Trevor for years, how I'd threatened his family, how I was a dangerous person who should be locked up. The account had tagged my community college, my workplace, my apartment complex. "Is this Caitlin?" I asked Trevor. "I think so. But she won't admit it. What am I supposed to do about this? Honestly? I don't know. I've tried talking to her, but she won't listen. She's still so angry about everything that happened. Says I'm being naive for giving you another chance." I scrolled through the account. 2,000 followers. Not a lot by Instagram standards, but enough to do damage. The comments were full of people calling me a psycho, demanding I be investigated, saying I should never have been allowed to go to college. My hands were shaking as I read them. "Should I report it?" I asked. "You can try, but it's all anonymous. I don't know if they'll do anything." I reported the account. Instagram said they'd look into it. 3 weeks later, it was still up. Meanwhile, the posts kept coming. New evidence every few days. Screenshots of things I'd supposedly said. Stories from witnesses who didn't exist. I started getting weird looks from my coworkers. One of the tenants I managed complained to Oscar, said she didn't feel safe with someone like me handling her apartment. Oscar pulled me into his office. "I got a weird email today," he said, showing me his laptop. Someone had sent him links to the Instagram account. "Want to explain?" I told him the whole story, everything, from Trevor and me being best friends to the sabotage to the fallout. I showed him the messages Trevor had sent me, the evidence that we'd reconciled. Oscar listened without interrupting. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair and rubbed his face. "That's a hell of a story, kid." "I know, and I understand if you need to let me go. I get it." He shook his head. "I'm not firing you over some anonymous Instagram page. You've been nothing but reliable since I hired you. But you need to deal with this, whatever it takes." I nodded. "I will," but I had no idea how. That night, I did something I probably shouldn't have. I messaged Caitlin directly. "I know it's you, the Instagram account. Can we please talk about this?" She didn't respond for 3 days. When she finally did, it was just 2 words. "Leave me alone." I could have pressed harder, could have threatened legal action or complained to Trevor or done any number of things to escalate the situation. Instead, I wrote back, "I understand why you hate me. I hurt your brother. I hurt your whole family. You have every right to be angry, but spreading lies isn't going to change what happened, and it's not going to make you feel better. I know because I've been where you are. I let my anger at Trevor turn me into someone I'm ashamed of. I don't want that for you, so I'm not going to fight back. I'm not going to report you or threaten you or try to make your life miserable. I'm just going to keep living my life and trying to be better. If you ever want to talk, really talk, I'm here. But until then, please think about what you're doing and whether it's really helping anyone, including yourself." She didn't respond. But 2 days later, the Instagram account was deleted. I don't know if my message got through to her, or if she just got bored, or if Trevor finally convinced her to stop. I never found out, never asked. I just thanked whatever forces in the universe were looking out for me and moved on. That was 6 months ago. Since then, I finished my first semester at State, made the dean's list, started writing for the campus newspaper, met a girl named Priya in my journalism class who laughed at my stupid jokes and didn't run away when I told her about my past. We've been dating for 2 months, taking it slow. I keep waiting for her to realize she can do better, but so far, she hasn't. Trevor graduated from Stanford last month. He got a job at some tech company in the Bay Area that I can't even pronounce. We texted that day, congratulating each other on our respective wins. "Proud of you," he wrote. "Proud of you too," I wrote back. And I meant it. My mom and I have dinner every Sunday. She's started dating again, some guy named Phil who manages a car dealership and makes her laugh in a way I haven't heard since my dad left. I'm happy for her. I'm happy for a lot of things now. Looking back at who I was 2 years ago, I barely recognize that person. The jealousy, the resentment, the willingness to destroy someone else's life just to make myself feel better. It's like reading about a stranger. I wish I could say I've completely forgiven myself, but I haven't. Not entirely. There are still nights when I wake up in a cold sweat, remembering the click of that send button, the look on Trevor's face when he burst into the computer lab, the way my mom cried in the principal's office. Some things you carry with you forever. Some mistakes don't just go away, but they can become part of a larger story, a story about growth and redemption and second chances. Martin waited 60 years to reconnect with my grandfather. 60 years of silence and regret. I got lucky. I found those letters when I was still young enough to change. Trevor and I will never be best friends again. Too much happened. Too much damage was done. But we're something. 2 people who hurt each other badly and somehow found a way back to mutual respect. Maybe that's enough. Maybe that's more than enough. Update 3, 3 years later. I never thought I'd write another update. The story felt finished, wrapped up in a nice little bow of redemption and personal growth and all that stuff. But life doesn't give a damn about neat endings. Last month, I got a phone call that changed everything. It was from a hospital in San Francisco. Trevor was in the ICU. Car accident. He'd been driving home from work late at night when some drunk driver ran a red light, hit him on the driver's side going 50 miles an hour. His parents had given the hospital my number. I was still listed as his emergency contact from back when we were kids. Nobody had thought to update it. I was on a plane within 3 hours. The hospital smelled like every hospital smells. Bleach and anxiety, and that weird artificial air that sticks to your skin. Trevor's mom was in the waiting room when I arrived. She'd aged a decade since I'd last seen her. Her hair was grayer, her face was thinner. She looked at me like she wasn't sure if I was a ghost. "You came," she said. "Of course I came." She started crying. Not the angry tears I remembered from the principal's office, just exhausted, grief-soaked tears from a mother who wasn't sure if her son was going to make it. I sat next to her and didn't say anything. Sometimes silence is the only appropriate response. Trevor's dad was in with the doctors. Caitlin was somewhere, I don't know where. The rest of the family was on their way. 3 hours later, they let us see him. He was almost unrecognizable. Tubes and wires everywhere. His face was swollen, bruised, bandaged. His left arm was in a cast. His leg was elevated in some kind of traction device, but he was breathing. He was alive. I stood in the doorway while his parents went to his bedside. I didn't feel like I had the right to get any closer. Then Trevor's mom turned and waved me over. "He'd want you here," she said. I walked to the bed, looked at my former best friend, the guy I'd tried to destroy, the guy who'd somehow forgiven me anyway. "Hey man," I said quietly. "You look like shit." I could have sworn his monitor beeped a little faster, like maybe some part of him heard me. The doctor said the next 48 hours were critical. The accident had caused significant trauma. Internal bleeding, brain swelling, the whole nightmare checklist. They'd done everything they could. Now it was up to Trevor. I stayed. I slept in the waiting room chairs. I ate vending machine garbage. I listened to Trevor's parents tell stories about him as a kid, stories I'd never heard before, about how he'd been terrified of thunderstorms until he was 12, about how he'd once rescued a stray cat and hidden it in his closet for 3 weeks before his mom found out. Caitlin showed up on the second day. She saw me and stopped dead in the hallway. "What are you doing here?" "Same thing you are." She looked like she wanted to argue, wanted to throw me out. But then her mom came over and hugged her, and whatever fight she had left just drained away. We didn't talk after that, just coexisted in the same space, united by the person we both cared about. On day 3, Trevor woke up. I wasn't there for it. I'd gone down to the cafeteria for my 4th terrible coffee of the day. When I came back, his room was buzzing with doctors and nurses and his family all talking over each other. I waited outside until things calmed down. His mom came out first. Her face was wet with tears, but she was smiling. "He wants to see you," she said. I didn't move. "Are you sure?" "He asked for you by name." "Go." I walked into the room. The lights were dimmed. Most of the machines were still beeping, but there were fewer tubes now, and Trevor's eyes were open. "You look like shit too," he said. His voice was hoarse, barely above a whisper, but there was that familiar smirk underneath all the bruises. I laughed. Couldn't help it. "You're in the hospital, man. I'm allowed to look rough." "Fair." I pulled up a chair next to his bed. We sat in silence for a while. There was too much to say and no way to say any of it. "Thanks for coming," Trevor finally said. "Of course. I thought maybe, I don't know. I thought maybe things were still weird between us. Things are always going to be weird between us. That doesn't mean I wouldn't be here." He nodded slowly. Moving hurt, I could tell. "The doctors say I'm going to be in recovery for months, maybe a year. Physical therapy, brain scans, the whole deal. You'll get through it." "Yeah." He paused. "My company's being cool about it. Disability leave, keeping my position open, but still, a whole year. That's a long time to sit around feeling useless." I thought about my own year after the expulsion, the warehouse job, the odd jobs, the slow climb back to something resembling a life. "It's not about the time," I said. "It's about what you do with it." "Did you read that in a fortune cookie?" "No, I lived it. You remember what my life was like after everything happened? I had nothing, less than nothing, and I built it back, one day at a time." "Yeah, but you're you. I'm..." "What? Special? Too good for grunt work?" He almost laughed, but it turned into a cough. "Maybe. I don't know. I just never thought I'd be here. Helpless. Dependent on everyone around me. Welcome to being human." He rolled his eyes. Same old Trevor. I stayed in San Francisco for a week, helped his family coordinate things, ran errands, did whatever needed doing. It felt strange, being useful to the people I'd once hurt so badly, but it also felt right. On my last day, Caitlin cornered me in the hospital hallway. "I need to say something," she said. "Okay." I was wrong. About a lot of things. The Instagram account, the messages, all of it. I was so angry about what you did to Trevor that I couldn't see anything else. I wanted you to suffer. I know. But watching you here this week, the way you dropped everything to come, the way you've been with my parents, with Trevor, it's not what I expected. What did you expect? I don't know. For you to be the villain of the story, I guess. It's easier when people are just bad, when you don't have to think about why they did what they did. I was the villain, I said, for a while. I did a terrible thing for terrible reasons, but people aren't stories. We don't stay frozen in our worst moments. Caitlin looked at me for a long time. Trevor says you guys are friends now. Like real friends. I don't know if I'd call it that. We're something better than we were. He says you send him dad jokes every week. I felt my face get warm. He told you about that? He showed me his phone once. A whole text thread of the worst jokes I've ever seen. They're not that bad. They're terrible. He loves them. We stood there in awkward silence. I'm not asking for forgiveness, I said finally. for what I did back then, or for understanding, but I am trying to be better. That's all I can do. Caitlin nodded slowly. I know. I can see that now. She stuck out her hand. Truce? I shook it. Truce. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't friendship, but it was something. I flew back home the next day. Back to my apartment, my job, my life. Back to Priya, who'd been texting me constantly the whole time I was gone. Back to community I'd built in the years since everything fell apart. Trevor and I texted more often after that. Not just dad jokes anymore. Real conversations about his recovery, about my classes, about the weird turns life takes when you're not looking. He's doing physical therapy now. Says it hurts like hell, but he's making progress. His brain scans came back mostly clear. He might have some memory issues, might not. Time will tell. I graduated from State last spring. Journalism degree, just like Dr. Malone suggested. Got a job at a local newspaper covering community events. It's not glamorous, but I love it. Getting to tell people's stories, finding the truth in complicated situations. Priya and I got engaged last month. Small ceremony planned for next year. Trevor's coming, assuming he's recovered enough to travel. My mom is marrying Phil in the fall. She asked if I'd walk her down the aisle. I said yes before she even finished the question. Sometimes I think about where I'd be if I hadn't found Martin's letters in that workshop. If Mrs. Delgado had hired someone else to clean it out. If I'd never made that connection between my grandfather and Trevor and me. Would I have stayed bitter and broken? Would Trevor and I have gone our whole lives circling each other's orbits, never reconnecting? I don't know. Can't know. What I do know is this. I got a second chance I didn't deserve. I almost threw it away multiple times, but somehow, through luck or fate or whatever you want to call it, things worked out. Not perfectly. Life isn't perfect. There are still scars, still awkward moments, still nights when I wake up thinking about the person I used to be. But there's also this. Trevor is alive. We're something like friends. I have a career and a fiancé and a family that loves me. And that Instagram account, the one Caitlin made to destroy me, she actually reached out last week, said she's been going to therapy, processing her anger, learning to let go. I'm sorry, she wrote, for everything. I know, I wrote back. Me too. Forgiveness isn't a single moment. It's a process, a choice you make over and over again. Sometimes it's easy. Sometimes it's the hardest thing in the world, but it's worth it. Martin was right. Grudges aren't worth holding. Friendships are precious. And forgiveness. Forgiveness is the only thing that matters in the end. I printed out his last letter to my grandfather and framed it. It hangs on my office wall now, where I can see it every day. A reminder of where I've been, and how far I still have to go. 3 years ago, I destroyed my best friend's scholarship because he was about to leave me behind. Today, he's alive because a drunk driver missed his vital organs by 3 inches. And I'm here, writing this, grateful for every second chance I've ever gotten. Life is strange. People are complicated. Endings are never really endings. They're just pauses before the next chapter begins. Final update, 5 years later. I'm writing this from a coffee shop in Seattle. Rain is pattering against the windows. There's a baby strapped to my chest in one of those carrier things, sleeping through the noise of espresso machines and quiet conversations. Her name is Maya. She's 4 months old. She has Priya's dark eyes and my stubborn chin. And if I hadn't destroyed Trevor's scholarship all those years ago, she wouldn't exist. I know that sounds insane. Let me explain. After Trevor's accident and recovery, things settled into a new normal. We kept in touch regularly. Not daily, but enough. He got back to work at his tech company. Eventually got promoted. Started dating a woman named Elena he'd met in physical therapy. They got married last year in a small ceremony on a beach in Santa Cruz. I was there, standing in the sand in a rented suit, watching my former best friend exchange vows with someone he loved. It was surreal. Priya and I got married the year before that. Small ceremony, like we'd planned. My mom walked down the aisle with Phil. Priya's parents flew in from India. About 40 people total, in the backyard of the house we'd just bought together. Trevor gave a speech at the reception. I hadn't asked him to. He'd just announced he wanted to say something, and I wasn't about to stop him. Most of you probably don't know the whole story about me and Bryce, he said, holding a champagne flute and looking uncomfortable in his formal clothes. We were best friends as kids. Then we weren't. Then we were enemies. Then we were, I don't even know what to call it. 2 people who'd burned each other so badly we couldn't look at each other without feeling sick. The room got very quiet. But here's the thing about Bryce. He did something terrible to me once, and instead of running from it, instead of pretending it never happened, he faced it. He took responsibility. He reached out when it would have been easier to disappear. And when I was in the hospital, when I thought I might not make it, he was there,
sitting in those awful chairs, drinking terrible coffee, making my parents laugh with his stupid jokes. He paused, blinking hard. Second chances are rare. Most people don't deserve them. Bryce didn't deserve his, but he earned it. Every single day, he earned it. And now he's standing here, about to spend the rest of his life with the most amazing woman I've ever met, and I couldn't be happier for him. He raised his glass. To second chances, and to the people stubborn enough to take them. Everyone drank. Priya was crying. My mom was crying.
I was trying very hard not to cry and failing miserably. After the reception, Trevor and I stood on the patio looking at the stars. "Hell of a speech," I said. "Yeah, well, I've been practicing in the mirror for weeks." "Nerd. Always." We stood in comfortable silence for a while. "You know what's crazy?" Trevor said. "If you hadn't done what you did, I would have gone to Stanford and never looked back. I would have left you behind and never thought twice about it. I would have become one of those Silicon Valley robots who has no friends from before the age of 22. You're still kind of a robot." "Fair, but I'm a robot who answers his texts now. A robot who shows up for people. And that's because of what happened between us. You're giving me way too much credit." "No, I'm giving the situation credit. Sometimes the worst thing that can happen to you turns out to be the best thing. Not because it's good, but because it forces you to become someone better." I thought about that for a long time. "You're saying I did you a favor by trying to destroy your life?" "I'm saying we did each other a favor by being honest about who we were, even when it was ugly, even when it hurt." He clapped me on the shoulder. "Now stop being philosophical and go dance with your wife. This is your wedding, moron." I went. That was 2 years ago. A lot has changed since then, but a lot has stayed the same. I'm still at the newspaper. Got promoted to senior reporter last year. I cover local politics now, which is more exciting than it sounds. There's something about holding powerful people accountable that feeds a part of my soul I didn't know was hungry. Priya finished her law degree and joined a firm that does immigration work. She's passionate about it in a way I've never been passionate about anything. She comes home exhausted most nights, but it's the good kind of exhausted. The kind that means you're doing something that matters. We bought a house in the suburbs. Nothing fancy. 3 bedrooms, a backyard big enough for a dog, a kitchen that actually has counter space. It feels like home in a way nowhere else ever has. And then Maya came along. I was terrified when Priya told me she was pregnant. Not about being a father, not about the responsibility or the sleepless nights or any of the normal stuff. I was terrified of passing on my worst qualities. What if Maya inherited my jealousy, my resentment, my capacity for cruelty when I felt threatened? I talked to a therapist about it. First time I'd ever done that. Sat in a beige office with a woman named Dr. Chen who had kind eyes and asked questions that made me uncomfortable. "You're not your worst moment," she told me. "You're every moment, all of them together. The bad ones and the good ones and the boring ones in between. But what if I mess her up? What if I teach her the wrong things? Then you'll recognize it because you've already learned what those wrong things look like. And you'll course correct. That's what good parents do. How do you know I'll be a good parent? I don't. But the fact that you're worried about it is a pretty good sign." Maya was born in February, during the biggest snowstorm Seattle had seen in 20 years. The hospital was chaos. The roads were impassable. I almost missed it because my car got stuck 2 blocks away and I had to run the rest of the way in dress shoes. But I made it. I was there when she came into the world screaming and red and absolutely perfect, and in that moment, holding her for the first time, all my fears just melted away. I looked at this tiny human who depended on me completely, and I knew with absolute certainty that I would spend the rest of my life trying to be worthy of her. Not perfect, never perfect, but better. Always trying to be better. Trevor visited last month. He and Elena are trying to have kids too. They wanted to see what they were in for. We sat on my back patio while Maya slept in her bassinet, and Elena and Priya talked inside. "You're good at this," Trevor said, watching me adjust Maya's blanket for the 10th time. "I have no idea what I'm doing." "That's not what I mean. You're present. You're paying attention. You're not just going through the motions." "It's hard to go through the motions when you haven't slept more than 3 hours straight in 4 months." He laughed. "Fair point." We sat in silence for a while. A comfortable silence. The kind that only comes from years of shared history. "Do you ever think about it?" Trevor asked. "The essay, the email, all of it?" "Sometimes. Less than I used to." "Me too." "Do you regret not pressing charges? You could have sent me to jail." He shook his head. "What would that have accomplished? You'd have a criminal record. I'd have revenge." "Neither of us would have grown, but you'd have gotten justice. Justice isn't the same as healing. I learned that the hard way. I thought about Dr. Chen, about all our sessions, about the long, slow work of becoming someone I could live with. "I'm glad you didn't," I said finally, "but I would have understood if you had." "I know. That's part of why I didn't." Maya stirred in her bassinet, made those little grunting noises that babies make. I reached down and put my hand on her chest, feeling her tiny heartbeat through my palm. "She's going to grow up with you two as friends," Trevor said. "That's a weird thing when you think about it. A kid who'll hear stories about her dad almost destroying someone's life, and then becoming their friend anyway. Maybe we won't tell her that part." "You should. It's an important lesson." "What lesson?" "That people can change. That mistakes don't have to define you. That forgiveness is possible, even when it shouldn't be." I looked at Maya's sleeping face, at her perfect tiny fingers, at the life stretching out ahead of her, full of possibilities I couldn't even imagine. "Yeah," I said. "Maybe you're right." Trevor's phone buzzed. Elena was ready to go. They had a long drive back to San Francisco. We hugged at the front door. A real hug. The kind we never would have shared back when we were teenagers pretending to be too cool for emotions. "Take care of yourself," Trevor said, "and take care of them. You too. Give Elena my best. Always." I watched them drive away, then went back inside. Priya was feeding Maya in the rocking chair we'd bought at a garage sale. She looked up when I walked in. "Good visit?" "Yeah, really good. You looked like you were having a moment out there. Just talking about old times. The old times where you tried to ruin his life, or the old times after that?" I smiled. Priya knew everything. I'd told her on our third date, fully expecting her to run. She hadn't. Both, I guess. She shifted Maya to her shoulder, patting her back gently. "You know what I love about your story with Trevor?" "What?" "It gives me hope. For humanity in general. If you two can find your way back to each other after all that, maybe there's hope for the rest of us." "That's a lot of pressure to put on one friendship." "It's not pressure. It's inspiration." I sat down next to her, put my arm around her shoulder, looked at our daughter. This tiny miracle who somehow existed because of a chain of events that started with me doing something terrible. Life is strange. People are complicated. Endings are never really endings. But beginnings? Beginnings are everywhere, if you're paying attention. Martin wrote to my grandfather 60 years ago about dreams being worth risking everything for. He was talking about art, about pursuing passion over practicality. But I think he meant something bigger, too. Dreams aren't just about career choices. They're about who you want to be, what kind of person you want to become. For a long time, my dream was just to survive, to make it through each day without falling apart, to prove that I wasn't the villain of my own story. Now my dream is different, bigger, more complicated. I want to be the kind of father Maya deserves, the kind of husband Priya deserves, the kind of friend Trevor deserves. I want to leave the world a little better than I found it, even if it's just through the small things, the everyday kindnesses, the moments of patience when I want to lose my temper, the forgiveness I extend to others because someone once extended it to me. I'm not there yet, probably never will be, but I'm trying. Every single day, I'm trying. And that's the whole story. From that Tuesday in the computer lab when I clicked send on an email that was supposed to destroy everything Trevor had worked for, to this moment, 5 years later, sitting in a coffee shop with my daughter sleeping on my chest and rain streaming down the windows. It's messy. It's complicated. It's full of mistakes and regrets and moments I wish I could take back. But it's mine. And for the first time in my life, I'm proud of who I've become.